Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Whatever this weird weekend thing is that we're doing. So all we did different is we pared it down a little bit. So we're going to go a little deeper into our 10 takes, maybe able to talk about them a little bit more, give you a few more insights. And then we're just going to talk about players that we like for the weekend. And off of that, talk about teams we like. Not going to go into the schedule and stuff. So we're just going to condense it, focus a little bit more on the 10 takes. Maybe occasionally we'll also take questions. If we don't have many 10 takes, maybe we could just put something out there on Twitter and take questions. So maybe we'll do that in the future. But anyways, that's the new format of the show. It should be a little bit shorter too, so that you can listen to us on a Friday and get on with your weekend. And then it starts Saturdays. If you don't already, by the way, I will just plug this really quick. If you don't subscribe to us on YouTube, you should. And you should also turn on notifications because we do live streams every once in a while. We've been doing them pretty much every Saturday for a while now, going back to last season, where we help you set lines. And this Saturday is not a busy weekend, but you just get to come and talk hockey with us. Maybe we can help you set lines for Sunday, even though it's technically called Sit Start Saturday. So anyways, hello, Brandon. How are you? You haven't talked yet. Can you speak, or are you mute?
Hello, everybody. I am alive and here.
He is alive.
To give you poor insights into fantasy hockey, probably.
That is pretty much what everyone listens to us for, right? I don't think you... Why else would you listen to us? So anyways, let's jump into 10 takes. Now, the first one here, I don't know where else to start. It only makes sense to start with COVID. So it's hitting the league pretty hard. Dallas obviously already has gone through some postponements. Carolina gets hit. Florida's getting hit the hardest because they just haven't played. They've played 2 games now. 2 teams that they were supposed to play have gotten postponed, and now we know that all the Russians on Washington are all sick with COVID. So you've got Ovechkin, Samsonov, Kuznetsov, and someone else I can't remember. But a lot of guys.
Orlov.
So now they're going to have to use the Orlov. There you go.
One.
So now they got to use the taxi squad. Now we get to see how useful the taxi squad actually ends up being. Now, I don't know what to make of all of this. Baseball had the same hiccups at the beginning, and they ended up figuring it out as the season went along. I do wonder if the NHL will eventually just they're just still getting their, feet wet. They're understanding what makes the virus tick as far as like what's safe, what isn't safe at this point. So I wonder if I think they'll get it together. That's my take. I think this will all be figured out. But for now, I do think we could expect some more postponements and just some struggles for the next 2-3 weeks while all this gets ironed out, essentially, still.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
My first one here is that I think that... So Yahoo sent a push to everybody. Early, I think to everybody. I don't know. I think you got it, right? I got it.
Yep, I got
a push about their takes
Bad
for
takes.
the beginning of the season, and my goodness.
Whew. Wow.
Like I typically don't just sit here and like rip other people's takes, but everybody that they listed in their takes were just people that were hot to start. There wasn't a lot of like backing data, and I think that's like dangerous for newer players.
Yeah.
Or anybody really. If you take their advice at face value, you're going to be picking up guys like Bobby Ryan, who I guarantee you is not somebody to be rostered right now.
No.
He could be. I mean, I like that he's top power play. They mentioned that. But, I mean, the guy's skating 13, 14 minutes. It's just he had like enough. 4 goals in his first 5 shots. It's like the textbook unsustainable high guy. Yep. So, I read their stuff for fun, but I don't know.
I think one of the things that I take issue with...
to me.
Yeah. I think one of the things I take issue with a lot of fantasy kind of news outlets or fantasy shows out there is that there's not enough, kind of like you're saying. I think one of the things I take issue with is that they put players out there that they like without really giving you the tools to make the decision whether they're good for you or not. I like to think that we do that we focus on saying like, hey, look, if you're looking for hits and blocks, it might work for your team comp, and trying to give you kind of the tools, if anything, to start to think about it in a more analytical way and think, okay, this might work for me, this might not, so that you can make better decisions in the future. And also, help you kind of understand that this person is really good or not really good for your league setup and for your team, because both of those things are important. if your team comp is really heavy on peripherals, a guy that we recommend for peripherals is not good for you. If you're good on points, a guy with points is not going to be good for you. And it would be stupid of us to just say, this player is a must grab, go get him in every single league. There's very few. I can probably, if I actually went back and looked at our past shows in history, there's probably, I can count on one hand, I think, how many people we've ever said are must adds in every league.
I would never say it. I hate that term.
I think we've only used it maybe 3 times because of deployment and just how good stat coverage they gave. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say that Bjorkstrand at one point was close to a must add last season.
You might have said it.
I
promise you I never said it.
I might have said it.
There's no way I would ever say it.
Anyways, my point is just, yeah, I don't like that a lot of other places will tell you, like, go grab this player right now. And even that's also why I don't like rankings. You might notice that we don't do rankings, like fantasy hockey rankings lists. It's because of that. Because you can't just look at it and say that for every single team, this player is number 5 or this player is number 10. It all depends on your team comp, on your, like, you can't just go and make a trade based on, like, oh, I'm getting 5 and 10 for number like 15, so I'm winning. You actually probably are winning in that trade. But my point is just, you can't make it that simple, you know? So here we are, not simplifying things and still managing to confuse myself. That means I'm doing a good job, by the way. That's what that means.
Is that what that means?
That's what that means. So my third take, Edmonton might suck, but they also might be good. I don't know what to think when it comes to Edmonton. They've been so hit or miss. Honestly, I think when I look at Edmonton, for some reason, every single season now, they're becoming Arizona, I think. Every season, it's their year.
The opposite of it, anyway.
The opposite in the sense of, like, they should be, I guess the opposite.
They have no defense and only scoring as opposed to only defense and no scoring.
I feel like every year now we're thinking, oh, Edmonton's going to be great. And every single year, they come out exactly like this. A team that has no depth.
Clotheslining Mitch Marner?
Clotheslining Mitch Marner. Like, barely any depth. No solution to that top right wing with McDavid. You have no defense to speak of, essentially. And yet we still expect them to do different every year. And I just don't know how to project them at this point in the sense of, like, as a team. If I had to make a guess right now, they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, it seems like it. I just don't know if they can overcome their horrific defensive woes.
No. And the Canadian division is good. They can get beat by a lot of teams. Ottawa can beat them on a good night. And so I think that they're just not going to have, when you talk about, right now to make the playoffs for these bubble teams, I think the difference is like 3 games or something, right? I don't know if Edmonton can overcome that. Maybe they'll figure it out, but right now I just don't see it.
Yeah, my next one is actually also about the Canadian division in general, and that is that so far, with like very few exceptions, it's been exactly what we expected.
Yep, pretty much.
High scoring games, very little defense to be heard of from anywhere. Even some of the teams that we thought were going to be fairly defensive, like Montreal, just getting quite a few goals scored in each and every game. So it's been, entertaining at the very least, but very confusing, hard to predict. I feel like any team in that division is capable of scoring 4 or 5 or 6 goals on any other team in that division, with the exception of possibly Calgary, who might be a little bit too difficult to score on that often. But everybody else, it just seems like the door is wide open for goals against, which is fun.
Yeah, Winnipeg also has good goaltending. That's the one thing holding them up right now is somehow
they do, but they have weak defense as opposed to Calgary, I think, has good goaltending and good defense.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Although I think that the Winnipeg goaltending alone is enough to make up for their somewhat lack of... Although I do think their defense has gotten better in Winnipeg, for what it's worth. I think. We'll see if the numbers back that up. But, Hellebuck still has a 9-8, I think, right now, or something like that now. 9-6. Somewhere around there. So he's looking pretty good. Anyways... My next one here, just a weird one that I wanted to mention that was funny to me of news from the week, was the weird pucks thing. Apparently they were completely off balance. Yeah. They made them wrong. Somehow they never tested them. They never QA'd them. And then all the players were like, hey, these bounce weird. They test them. They're like, oh, yeah, they do bounce kind of weird. So now they're using the 1920 pucks, the in-season pucks from last year, and they went and made a new batch. of the ones with the tracking system. I think testing pucks is probably something that's kind of important. Probably.
Seems like it. You'd think.
So anyways, we'll see if that makes a difference in these next few games or rest of the season, but that was a thing that was happening.
Yeah. So with kind of thoughts about, how I kind of ragged on Yahoo Fantasy's pickup targets recently. I think one of the things that gets overlooked the most, and something that I think is the biggest hang up for newer players especially, is when you're considering whether a player is sustainable, the first thing to look at is their ice time. It's the easiest indicator.
Yes.
I think especially for a peripherals player, this is a little bit different, but time on ice is definitely still number one for them. But the next thing typically is power play deployment and power play time for point getters. So if you see, this drags me right back to Farabee and also to Bobby Ryan, right? Like Bobby Ryan, I already mentioned, playing 13, 14 minutes. Farabee playing 13, 14 minutes, but also playing power play too. 4 points in his first game, no points since. They just finished a game against Boston here. I'm pretty sure he had no points in that as well, which puts him below point per game pace. And I honestly, I don't think people should be all that surprised about that. He's not exactly been... I'm not saying he's a bad player or anything, but he just doesn't have the deployment to put up massive numbers on any consistent basis. So when you're looking at a player, especially a point getter, and you're thinking, will this player's breakout game or 3 games or 5 games or whatever that they've been on, is that actually something that we can expect from them? And if they're playing, I'd say less than 16 minutes is usually about the cutoff. If they're playing 15 or below minutes, it's going to be really hard for them to keep up with any type of realistic production at like a 65 plus point pace. It's just too hard. There's just not enough time. So bear that in mind with when you're making your decisions about if a player is worth keeping or picking up.
Unless, of course, your name is Travis Konechny, in which case there is no limit to your ceiling. It doesn't matter how many minutes you play. You are just God among men. It's facts. Facts. But that's a good advice. I think looking at time on ice is the bare minimum you should do. If someone is getting 13 minutes a game, like you said, it's really hard to sustain any kind of insane pace. Top power play is nice because not all minutes are created equal, but still, you want that, especially if you're considering dropping someone that's getting a lot of minutes. For example, like when we talked about PK Subban, right? Just from the minute numbers alone, you expect eventually minutes to come. It's the same thing with Jack Hughes, right? When I looked at him and I saw he was playing 22 minutes a game, that's an immediate ad for me. And also sometimes, take a look at how the rest of the team is shaping up too, because sometimes you could be seeing 17 minutes and they're playing the rest of the team also 17 minutes. And that means they're just playing pretty even lines. That's what you see in like Montreal, for example. A lot of them playing 17 minutes because they're all the same. But anyways, my next one here, kind of interesting. Hockey Viz, Micah McCurdy posted this. Home ice advantage is currently at 59%, which is actually really high, all things considered. It's kind of interesting. So home teams are currently winning 59% of the time through about 50-ish games. It's the highest it's been in the last, I think, 7 years or so. So it'll be really interesting to see if this continues. So apparently no fans isn't affecting home ice. It's actually helping. I mean, it makes sense because Toronto...
It seems weird to me. I feel
Toronto
like we're just looking at a small sample size, but...
Yeah. I need to stop ragging on Toronto. I swear I'm going to get burnt. My house is going to get burned down.
Yeah, you deserve it by now.
I do deserve it. Okay, you go on next.
All right, my next one is, I think at this point, we're fresh into the season, and this is just a general strategy tip. I feel like people are getting really easily agitated by some players that have very big potential. Guys like Fiala, I think, is the biggest example I've seen. I've seen a lot of people asking me if they should drop Fiala. And I get it, right? He hasn't really done anything yet. But again, kind of going back to my last point, take a look at what he's doing, right? Like, what is he doing? Okay, he's got no points. Or maybe he has 1 point. I don't remember. But he's not doing what you expected as far from point production. But he's skating good minutes. He's got good power play time. And he has 19 shots in 4 games. That last bit compiled with those last 2 pieces there, the time on ice and the shooting, it's it would be very improbable for him not to start scoring. Not only just assists, but also goals. That's a very low everything for him. So I think just, sit tight. We know that Western Division has some defensive teams, but it's not exactly like a bastion of good teams or anything like that. He's probably, with him and Kaprizov, are probably the two most offensive threats on that team, and they're going to be utilized. So Fiala will be leaned on, as he has been from a minutes perspective, and the points will come. Just calm down for, we're talking about he's played 4 games. Most players have played 4 games or 3 games or whatever. So let's take a deep breath on this one.
Whew. I mean, that goes for a lot of things, not just players. People just get frustrated really quick, and they want results immediately, forgetting that, like, this is a long season, in the sense that maybe not this season specifically, but in general, you've got 16 weeks, right, in total. You probably got 10 weeks to make the playoffs, or at least get yourself into a really secure spot. You got to have a little bit of patience. There's guys that I don't want to have as much patience for. Rickard Rakell, for example, terrible team. Don't want to pay. I don't care. He's playing 50 minutes. Doesn't matter. Whereas Fiala, you see him shooting a lot. There are still signs there of something turning around, and if he does turn around, it's very worth it. Whereas with Rakell, that's why I'm close to dropping him. Is just even if he turns it around, is it really worth it? Nah, probably not. Okay, my last one here. Here we go. Okay. Now, I made fun of the Leafs for their tinfoil hat theories, but I am joining them. I don't have a tinfoil hat, but I did wear a hat for this reason in particular, just for this part. Tinfoil hat theory. Here we go. Laine isn't actually injured. What if he's going to get traded and he's just sitting on the sidelines right now? I don't think it's true, but I'm just putting that out there. Just putting it out to the world. You never know. Just like John Oliver put out there that he wanted to see what the Pringles man looked like, and he got that. I'm just putting out there, Laine isn't injured. I might want to see a trade because I'm bored.
Yeah, that and PLD just sitting on the bench, not playing.
Yeah, and PLD getting
and
benched.
What turned into a loss.
See, they think we're not smart enough, but don't worry. This is like birds aren't real. We're catching on.
Birds aren't real. All right, my last take is finally not really advice for a change, but it's I think in the East, or the Metro, I still want to call it the Metro because honestly it's more the Metro than it was previously, that every team looks like a team that could potentially make it. I think every team's a bubble team. The funny thing is you mentioned the Rangers with a bunch of question marks, which is funny because they're your team.
Yeah,
but
they suck.
The Rangers have the most shots on goal per game of any team in the league right now.
So
not for lack of trying. I think they might be able to crack through. I mean, it's not like they have no wins either. They do have a 5-0 shutout win for one. But I could see literally, and like I feel like the dominant force that everybody thought was going to be the dominant force in that division was Boston. And Boston hasn't looked like Boston recently. They haven't been really, I mean, Marchand's been fine, but they haven't exactly been helped out a whole lot by that top line. They haven't found anybody to gel on the right wing, which is understandable. You're missing Pasta, but you still think that Marchand and Bergeron plus anybody should be able to make something work. It's kind of been and they've been bailed out by their depth, which has been nice for them. But they haven't nearly been as dominant as expected, and I don't really see any team being a team to step up and be the dominant team in that division anymore. I seriously think anybody could make it. Like the Devils were the ones that I thought were the Devils, and actually I thought with the acquisition of Taylor Hall that even Buffalo had some sort of chance this season. They've looked decent even in their losses. So all the teams look pretty decent. I thought the Devils were going to be terrible.
Same.
But I mean, they just get shelled out by the Islanders, but they've looked pretty good. Hughes has been vastly improved. I don't know that they have the depth. They might still be the ones kind of on the outs, but I don't think they're dead in the water the way I thought they were. So I think as far as like actual NHL is concerned, like the actual division and the development of who winds up in the playoffs, that's going to be the division to watch.
Yeah.
That and the Canadian division, I guess.
Here's a fun question. Oh, this is kind of interesting. So I was looking at expected goals for percentages. The worst team in the league is the Ducks at 37%. Just atrocious. The Devils are next worst, actually, at 41%. Then there's the Kings, 43%. Guess which division is the worst? And then the Sharks at 43%. I think I know which division is for feasting. The Philadelphia Flyers are at 44%, actually. The Rangers are pretty good.
I mean, they haven't come out very strong, and losing Couturier certainly doesn't help.
Yeah,
but
the Rangers
I'm
are
still
8th
bullish on them in general.
in goals
Rangers
for
8th?
percentage.
Yeah, because they're
Expected
shooting
goals
so
for
much.
percentage. Yeah, that's why. Still,
Although the funny thing is, last season, I don't know if their expected goals for percentage was high, but I remember that LA did a pretty good job of controlling the play, despite being like a bad team. So I
LA's
wonder where that
terrible.
narrative will take them in a division where there's not a whole lot of strong teams, but we'll see.
LA is awful. They're so bad. Oh
I
my
know.
gosh.
They're also like 100,
Although-
everybody on the team.
Look,
But they shoot a lot somehow.
LA's bad. Anaheim is. Oh, I am sorry for you if you're an Anaheim Ducks fan, because that team has nothing worth watching.
They have
right
John
now.
Gibson. God bless him.
They have nothing aside from John Gibson worth watching. I mean, I should have put that in my 10 takes. There is nobody there to generate offense. It is brutal. I get Comtois has scored some goals, but it's some of the most boring hockey I've ever watched in my life. I can't wait to watch like Vegas just annihilate them, or whoever else. Who have they played so far? They've played Arizona, I think, right? And have they? Maybe they did play Vegas already. Am I missing this? I don't really. No offense, I just
I don't
don't
remember
pay
who they
attention.
played.
I don't really pay attention to the Ducks. I don't really think there's a need to pay attention to the Ducks.
Oh, they played
that rude?
Minnesota, and they did pretty well so far.
I mean,
They did play well on both of the times they played them.
They actually have
I don't
a
know who
win.
They played beyond that,
which is
yeah,
really insane.
against Minnesota, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just
They're gonna have to figure some sort of magic out, or they're just dead in the water. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know what magic they're pulling out of a hat, because they don't really have much unless they bring up Seagrass, and still I still don't know what they're doing there. Anyways, let's move on to the last part of this episode and talk about the weekend pickup suggestions and kind of talk about the schedule as well as a result of that. So my first pickup suggestion here is from St. Louis, who has a really good schedule. They have Saturday and Sunday games, Saturday being an off night. So Justin Falk, defenseman, 17% out, and I know he's been one of the highest kind of picked up players recently. I don't buy into him long term. He was unsustainably high, but for the weekend, he's a really good pickup. 17% defenseman. He's getting a lot of peripherals too. So at minimum, I don't believe in the points, but at minimum, he is getting you really good peripherals. So I don't hate that for the weekend, especially if that's something you need to catch up in.
yeah, my first one here is, I think, so this is interesting because I don't really know what's going to happen, but there's a chance Binnington plays both sides of their LA back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday.
Why?
But I think because, I don't know, because they don't
It
trust
makes no sense. Why would
Husso
they?
yet.
But why would they do that? It's against LA. Rest him so that he can be ready for like a Vegas back-to-back or something.
It depends on how the first game goes, I think.
True.
But
Because when he gets pulled in
So-
the first game in the first period, then he can play in the second. It makes sense. Good thinking.
so we may see a Ville Husso start on a pretty generous slate, against a sludge match against LA. So that could be an inch. He's like not owned. Like you can definitely grab him if you need that like late Sunday. I'm behind in a points league, or I'm behind in my save percentage, goal against average, wins, whatever.
Or-
he's an interesting option for Sunday.
Or if you're, you need a late Sunday pickup. You're ahead in save percentage and goals against average, and you want to lose, so you pick up Ville
Yep.
Husso, get 8 goals against versus LA, because why not? Then you lose. If you want to do that too, go for it. I hate Ville Husso this weekend. I wouldn't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole. I don't trust him until he has a good game. I know it was against Colorado. I get it, but still.
I don't think there's any other pickup you can even make though.
Oh,
it's him
there
or
is.
nothing.
I've got a
Bressois is the only other
suggestion.
one, but
I've got a suggestion.
that's against the Oilers, which tired against arrested Oilers. I don't want to do that.
How about Cal Peterson? I like him.
You think he's gonna play?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess he would. In
Yeah.
a sludge match against St. Louis, though.
Yeah. Why not?
I
He
don't
played
know.
well.
I'd rather have Husso in that matchup.
No, I'd
Bet
rather
you he's more likely to win for sure.
I think Peterson will have better save percentage and more saves.
Definitely more saves. I don't know about a better save percentage.
I don't know.
I don't know that LA can protect him in a way to give him a good save percentage. But we'll
that
see.
that is fair. I will give you that. But I'm trying to look up what his save percentage was in his last game. I can't remember for some reason. Let's see. I'm looking this up now. Type in. What does he have? Get stats. He had an 8.75 and a 3.10 goals against average. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah.
5%. If you'd like to lose like I said, if you'd like to lose Billy Husso or Calvin Peterson, great options. Anyways, okay, ignoring Calvin Peterson, I've got one other person to recommend on the Kings, and that's Alex Iafallo, left wing, 3% owned only. Really interesting development with Iafallo. He's playing 20 plus minutes a game. He played 22 last game. The points haven't really been coming, but he's getting so many minutes that you've got to assume at some point, hopefully they drop. A really good option. And if it turns into a long-term thing where he's getting 20 plus minutes, he could be a really interesting longer-term option in deeper leagues. In non-deep leagues, I'd probably place him on the watch list and always have him kind of as an option because LA has so many off nights. But for the time being, I do like the fact that IFL is getting... If you look at the lineup of how many people are out there, there are very few that are getting that many minutes that are still on the wire. So it's an interesting look. There is one other person that I'll recommend after Brandon that I kind of like more, though. So I'll let Brandon do his.
Yeah. So my first one here, or my second one rather, is Zach Sanford, left wing 1%. He is for deep leagues mostly, although his minutes have been pretty good since he's been moved to a line with Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron. He's power play 2, but I mean, it's really difficult to crack that power play 1. And I think St. Louis is one of the few teams that's deep enough from a power play perspective to actually have a pretty reasonable power play 2. You know, Mike Hoffman is sitting on that power play 2. So, and Robert Thomas, like that's a power play 2 that can actually score goals. Mm-hmm. So I do think that despite he might not get a ton of power play time, he'll get some, and it'll be with a decent squad as opposed to like a totally, trash second power play unit. Yep. 1% owned, you're not going to be able to really find anything like that. And his minutes, again, have been gone quite a bit up since he joined the line with Ryan O'Reilly and Perron.
Yeah. I've got a 1%er too, who I actually like more. That's Andrew Kopp. Center, left wing, Kopp. Andrew Kopp.
He's gone if Laine comes back.
He is. If Laine comes back, he's gone. But for now, I mean, he's been playing super well. His minutes have gone up to around 18-ish, 18 to 20-ish minutes. He's been looking fantastic, clicking really well. So if Laine is out for the weekend, Andrew Kopp is a fantastic grab. They play Ottawa, and then they play, as Brandon would define them, a stinky. I think you defined Edmonton as stinky. Who's poopy? Elliott? No, Elliott. Brandon described Brian Elliott as stinky.
Elliott was stinky.
And Edmonton was poopy. So this is a poopy Edmonton Oilers team.
Elliott got a shutout, and then I think Edmonton won 3-1 or something.
Yep. So Brandon is wrong. You also can tell that Brandon has a kid now when he's messaging me stinky and poopy. But I'm getting used to it.
I don't say that to him.
I'm learning.
I just go straight vulgarity with him.
You save the nice words for me and your fantasy hockey podcast children.
Right.
Your kid gets it all.
PG here, not at home.
No, at home you're rated R. Maybe PG-13 until your kid's 13. Then you can go R. Can't jump him straight into R. Come on. Anyways, Andrew Kopp. Do you have any more?
Since birth. Yeah, I've got 2 more.
Okay.
The next one is Vitek Vanacek. I hope I said that right. I can't remember if that first name is pronounced that way. Vitek. It might be. I think it's Vitek. Anyway, whatever. 16% owned. I think this is more of a desperation play. The fact that he's already 16% owned is weird to me because he's going to be playing essentially for the same amount of time that the entire offensive core of the Washington Capitals is out. So, but his starts are not against the most dangerous teams. He's got 2 against Buffalo and 2 against Islanders before Samsonov can return. So they're pretty generous as far as what matchups he gets. I don't know that he just gets shelled into oblivion or not, but at least you have the option to grab a quote unquote starting goaltender for the time being if you need one.
Yep.
And then my last one here is Jeff Carter, center left wing, 25%. He's got the Saturday-Sunday start. He may be playing against Husso on Sunday or Saturday, actually. I guess they could start him in either one. And I actually think he has decent long-term potential. I think the biggest thing missing from Jeff Carter right now is top power play deployment, but he's kind of picking up where he left off from last season, except the points are actually there this time, in that he is shooting quite a bit and his hits are like reasonable. I don't know if we're going to keep seeing I think he was a little bit snake bitten last season for points, but I also don't think he's going to be like a stud for the point department either.
A stud.
A stud. Not like we remember him. I think the Jeff Carter of old is dead and gone, but he can still provide some upside, especially if you're looking for any high ceiling guy to start 2 days on Saturday and Sunday. I think he's one of the few that is readily available that has some good upside.
I can't wait to call someone a stud on the show.
Stud.
Mm-hmm. Get that twang. I got to practice the twang in my voice to really get the stud. Yeah. This is when it's been a weekend and the show is over. So anyways, thank you for listening. We'll see you for the week preview on Sunday.
Yep. Thanks for listening.